Well, students, in the last class, we have discussed discrete time option pricing models. More precisely, we have discussed binomial models. In this lecture, we will take up continuous time model, where we will discuss a very well-known model called Black-Scholes model. In a sense, it is not new to us. We have already discussed log normal model in stock pricing. Black-Scholes model is more or less based on the log normal model on the underlying asset pricing model. Given an option, so far we have partitioned the time interval 0 to t, that is the duration of the option, into n parts, t naught equal to 0, t1, t2 and so on till tn, which is equal to capital T. So we generally denoted this partition as tn and considered the transactions and stock price movement only at these time levels. We have devised model to find the price of the option given a time level like this. Therefore, for every n, we found a price of the given option, which we will denote by Hn. So in this way, we got a sequence of prices. For each n, you have a price correspondingly. Let me again repeat. You are given a option. It can be a European call option or European put option or American call or put or exotic put or call, any option you are given it, then you give me a n, I can find the price of the option using the binomial model, right? So tk is equal to k into t by n we make, and then we correspondingly derive the formula for option price. Now the question is, as n tends to infinity, does the sequence Hn not converges? That is the question. This question is also equivalent to asking that is the pricing model stable? If this sequence converges, then we say that the pricing model is stable. Remember, as you take n larger and larger, you can see that the partition becomes more finer and finer, and in the case of n tending to infinity, we have a continuous time model. In fact, it can be shown that the binomial model that we have constructed is in fact stable, and in the limiting case what we get is the well-known Black-Scholes model. The aim of this section is to introduce the Black-Scholes model. For a given partition Tn, we'll denote the other parameters as Rn, which is the prevailing interest rate per period, Un, which is the proportion in which the stock moves upward, and the Dn, which is the proportion in which the stock moves downwards. We also denote by delta Tn the distance between two consecutive times in the partition, which we take as T by n, and we denote the equivalent martingale measure as Pn star, which is nothing but the probabilities of the stock going upwards is Pn star. Generally, it is called the risk neutral probability. If you recall, in the past, when we were studying the way we choose U and D in the binomial lattice model, what we did is we followed a matching technique between the binomial and the log normal model, through which we got a system of two equations in which you have three unknowns, namely u, d, and p. Then we choose one of the parameters and then obtain the other two parameters by solving the system. So let us recall that we have done two types of choices. One is by taking dn is equal to 1 by un, in which case we got un is equal to e to the power of root mu delta tn square plus sigma square delta tn, and dn is equal to e to the power of minus mu delta t n square plus sigma square delta t n, right? And in that case, we also got the probability Pn as 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2 divided by root sigma square by mu square delta Tn plus 1. We have also obtained these parameters by assuming that Pn is equal to 1 by 2, in which case we got Un as e to the power of mu delta Tn plus sigma root delta Tn, and dn is equal to e to the power of mu delta Tn minus sigma root delta Tn. So now what we will do is we will unify these two cases and assume Un is equal to e to the power of sigma root delta Tn minus alpha times delta Tn, and dn is equal to e to the power of minus sigma root delta Tn plus beta times delta Tn, where alpha and beta are assumed to be known to us. For instance, you can take alpha equal to beta equal to, sorry, there is a plus here. For instance, we can take alpha equal to beta equal to mu to get this case, and similarly we can equate these expressions with our first expressions, and we can accordingly find alpha and beta as well. We also take r in such a way that 1 plus rn is equal to e to the power of r delta tn. Therefore, in our binomial model, wherever we get 1 plus rn, we can just replace it by e to the power of r into delta tn. This is just to have the compounding in a continuous form. In what follows, we always take un and dn like this, and r, instead of rn, we will always consider r, which satisfies this equation. Therefore, wherever there is 1 plus rn, we will put e power r into delta tn. So what is the p that we have to choose? Remember, in this first case, our p comes to be like this, and in second case, we have taken p to be like this. So in any case that we work with, there will be a p coming out of our matching system. But we have already seen that if you are working with a no arbitrage market, you always have a equivalent martingale measure, which we take it as the risk neutral probability. Therefore, with no arbitrage market assumption, we can always take p star n as our probability measure, which is given by actually 1 plus rn minus dn by un minus dn. But 1 plus rn we are taking like this. Therefore, we have e to the power of r into tn minus dn divided by un minus dn. With all this, we can prove that if un and dn as given above, that is our general form un dn, in fact r also, and r are as given, then limit n tends to infinity pn star is actually equal to 1 by 2. Let us see how to prove this. What is our pn? Pn star is nothing but e to the power of r delta tn minus e to the power of minus sigma delta tn plus beta delta tn, that is dn, divided by e to the power of sigma minus e to the power of sigma minus sigma delta tn in the root plus beta times delta tn. Therefore, we can see that 2 times pn star minus 1 can be written as 2 times e power r delta tn minus e to the power of sigma delta tn square root plus alpha times delta tn minus e to the power of minus sigma root delta Tn plus beta delta Tn divided by the same denominator. Now use the Taylor expansion for each of these exponential functions. We get 2pn star minus 1 is equal to r minus sigma square by 2 minus alpha plus beta by 2 into delta Tn plus, that's the leading term which comes in the Taylor expansion, plus you have a big expression delta T because you have a root delta T and delta T, therefore it's delta T into root delta T. So that term whichever comes here will surely converges slightly faster than delta Tn as n tends to infinity. That is what we write as delta T n small o of delta Tn. It means there is an expression here which goes to 0 a bit, at least a bit faster than how delta Tn goes to 0 as n tends to infinity. Okay, therefore we always write as n tends to infinity because we are writing this notation. Divided by, similarly you expand these two terms in Taylor, you will get sigma root delta Tn into 1 plus, so it comes as common. Again you have some expression which goes to 0 a bit slower than this, but surely it goes to 0, right? Because you have, I think it goes to 0 as fast as root delta Tn goes to 0, because the root delta Tn is there in both the terms. Therefore, I think it goes that much fast. You can just write it and see, but that is not important. It goes slightly faster than. That's what this term says. Okay. So it means both this term, which we have not written here, as well as this term which we have not written here, both will go to 0 as n tends to infinity because it's small o. That implies already you have this term, therefore this entire thing goes to 0 as n tends to infinity. Similarly, you have a root Tn here, therefore that also goes to 0 as n goes to infinity. And you can see that this guy, the numerator goes to 0 slightly faster than the denominator because you have both the terms dominated by this term, that is delta Tn, whereas here you have root delta Tn which is going slower than delta Tn going to 0 as n tends to infinity. Therefore this overall, this term goes to 0. Therefore as n goes to infinity, the right hand side goes to 0, and that implies Pn star goes to 1 by 2 as n tends to infinity. So that proves the theorem. Let us proceed to construct Black-Scholes model for European options. Let us consider a K-strike option with period 0 to capital T. Recall that we have already derived the price of a K-strike European option using discrete time model. And in this case, for a given Tn, means there are n time levels, the price of the option is, recall that we have done this as multi-step binomial model, where we have given an explicit form of this expression as 1 by 1 plus r to the power of n into sigma j equal to 0 to n, and you have that binomial kind of expression. So since we always take 1 plus r n as e power r t, we have this expression, sorry, here it is r t. So let us start with this price and try to see how we can take the limit as n tends to infinity and arrive at a continuous time model, where htn is the payoff of the option. Let us first consider the put option. We'll derive the Black-Scholes model first for the put option, and then we can derive it for the call option using the put-call ratio relation. I will tell you later why we are first deriving for put option. So for put option, recall that the payoff can be given by, so since we are working with put option, instead of using H as the payoff, I will use PT of N. Okay, so to indicate that we are in particular working with the put option, this is the notation we always used in the past. It is given by maximum of 0, k minus st of n. Recall that we generally define st in the binomial model as s naught into u to the power of k into d to the power of n minus k, to indicate that st is obtained by going some k times up and n minus k times down. Okay, so k depends on how the stock moves. So let us give a general notation for this, because this is actually a random process here, and therefore we can indicate this by a random variable, and therefore we use the notation st of n as s naught into the random variable. Okay, so instead of writing it as some x, I will write it as e to the power of x, and since it depends on the n, so I will write as xn. Okay, so why I'm writing e to the power of xn, not simply xn, to denote this is something not new to you. You have already done such representations in the log normal model, and we have well discussed the reason for why we are taking the random variable as e to the power of xn there in the log normal model. Therefore, I will not repeat it here. So what is xn? Xn is the random variable defined on the sample space s comma f star. F star is the power set of s, which can also be viewed as the final destination of the filtration, and it is given by xn of s, any element you take from this sample space. It is given by log pi k equal to 1 to n sk bar, let me denote by bar, and sk bar is given by un if sk is u and dn if sk is down. Okay, so this is how we always write. Okay, so if you recall, your sample space S consists of up and down. Okay, and then for each time you have one component of S, say this is Sk, at the kth time level you have this component, and then you take the product and get the sample set S, and therefore any S is a kind of vector in your sample space, and it has component S1, S2, and so on, Sn, okay, where each Sk is either up or down, right? And its numerical proportional value is what we are denoting by Sk bar here. So you give me any such vector S to my random variable xn, it gives me the number like this. Okay, we will also use a notation for xn as k equal to 1 to n yk n of s. Okay, so this is just to decompose xn into each time level. Okay, xn is just taken as one random variable which runs from time level 0 to n, whereas when I write in this form, I'm breaking it into each time level, where yk n of s is equal to log sk bar. Just it takes the kth component of the outcome s. That's what it means. And then you are patching everything together to get your xn. Okay. So this notation one has to keep in mind carefully. With these notations, we can write the payoff as P naught N. Remember, we have first written it as H naught N, which is equal to this. And now we know what is the payoff because we have fixed it as put option. Therefore, I can put this here. And instead of H, I will take as P because we are working with put. And that's how I get this expression E star N, which is already there. E to the power of minus RT is also there. Instead of H, I will put PT, and PT is now given by maximum of 0 comma K minus S naught E to the power of XN, right? So that is how we have written here. K minus st is written as s naught into e to the power of xn. So that's how we get this. So we further assume that the stock movement during the period tk to tk plus 1 is independent of tk minus 1 to tk. So how the stock goes here or here is completely independent of how it goes from here or here or here or here. Okay, so whether up or down doesn't depend on the previous one, because that is the efficient market hypothesis, that it always depends on the future but not on the past. Okay, so if you use that, then you can assume that the movement of the stock in each time interval, which is actually inbuilt into the random variable yk, with this efficient market hypothesis, we can assume that yk are independent and also they are identical random variables, and their probability is given by p star n of yk is equal to un is actually pn, and p star of ykn is equal to dn is 1 minus pn star, because we always work with the equivalent martingale measure. Okay, so because all this needs to have the martingale property, therefore we will not work with those probabilities which comes as the solution of our matching system, but we will work with the equivalent martingale measure. Okay, that idea is already been set when we were proving the fundamental theorems. Therefore, we will always work with the risk neutral probability. This is also the martingale measures are also called risk neutral probability. But for U and D, we will use our general formula. So this can be written as Pn star of ykn is equal to sigma root delta Tn plus alpha times delta Tn, right? That is what we have taken as a general form of Un. Okay, but we don't care what is the corresponding Pn for it, because we always replace it by the general or equivalent martingale measure. Okay, so that is how the theory goes. Similarly, we can write it for the downward movement. So to go to our further theorems, what we are taking up is how we are taking un, how we are taking dn, and we don't take the corresponding pn, but we take the corresponding risk neutral probability. And with that, our probabilities are given by this for our random variable yk. and our payoff is given by this expression with xn being written like this, and that in turn is split into each time interval. The stock movement of the each time interval is denoted by yk. And with all this, we have already established the pricing model, that is the binomial pricing model, which is given like this. Now our only step remaining is to take as n tends to infinity. If you take n tends to infinity, you will get as a limit the model which is called the Black-Scholes model, but that needs some technical details which we will state as two lemmas.